What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to a couple of subscribers for showing love to the channel. Much respect to the man, the myth, the legend, the brother, Robert Mason, coming through with the donation to the channel once again via the PayPal. Much respect to you for showing love again. And I want to get a shout out to the brother Marcos, aka Simon, for the $21 donation via the PayPal. There's a note saying it's so refreshing to hear the news with a different approach. Keep up the good job. Much respect to you, man, and thank you for showing love to the channel. So, Dennis Rodman was in the news recently for a couple things. He showed his support to the alphabet community in a parade. I talk about that on Too Raw for Sports. But he also said something about his old nemesis, Larry Bird, that have a lot of people upset. So I'll put a link to this article from MSN in the pinned comment in the comment section below. So Larry Bird said in an interview with Vlad TV that if Larry Bird was playing today, he wouldn't be good enough to play in the league he'd play overseas. He said if Larry Bird played in this era wait a minute. If Larry Bird played in this era, I think he'd be in Europe. I'm just letting you know, man. You know, he'd be somewhere over there. His game was fit for Boston at that time in the 80s. In today's world, oh hell no. There's no way I'm not downplaying him because he was a great player at that time, like I was. But I'm saying there's no way. That's my Dennis Rodman. That's years of booze and coke and smoking and all types of other shit, inserted and ingested in his mouth. Look, man, that's a bullshit. That's a bullshit ass take. First of all, you've had Luka Doncic, and you had other European players say the same thing. That the game is easier in the NBA than compared to over in Europe. They say over in Europe is harder. And then another thing I want to make before I go away from that, have you noticed that all these European players are coming over here and dominating? You got Giannis, who's already won a championship. He's from Europe, Greece. You had Nikola Jokic just won a championship. He's from Serbia. Luka Doncic, where is he from? Is it Serbia too? Somewhere in that area. I forget exactly which way he's from. But Luka Doncic, who's probably going to win a championship one day, he's from over there. Look at all these players coming over from Europe and just dominating. Matter of fact, the whole game in itself. Look at all these influx of European players that have come over the past 15, 20 years and have had Hall of Fame or near Hall of Fame careers. Think about it. Peja Stojakovic, Drazen Petrovic, Vlade Divac. Look at all these bigs now. They're from Europe. You know what I'm saying? The guy in Chicago, Vucevic. You know, they're not from here. So what is he talking about? What are you talking about, Dennis? Then you look at the way the game is played today. It's not predicated on athleticism. So if he was saying that, hey, in 2002, I don't know if Bird would have been as great. I could see the argument for that. Because in that time period, it was more predicated. The spacing wasn't that great. The game was slower. But to be an effective offensive player, it helped to be athletic because you had to have a first step It helped to move quickly and move in the gaps quicker before they broke down from defenses. So it made sense to be more athletic in the 2000s. That's why you saw this influx of all these great athletes who really weren't great shooters, because the game was more about athleticism. Look at the best players in the 2000s. The big men, they were all big, athletic guys, or relatively athletic guys, skilled, some of them, but they were athletes. And when their games went down is when their athletic ability went down. Think about it. Chris Webber. Tim Duncan wasn't a great athlete, but he had hops a little bit when he was younger, but he had an all-around game. Kevin Garnett. Jermaine O'Neal before he got hurt. Remember Darius Miles? They tried to make him a star. He wasn't much of a basketball player, but he could jump through the fucking roof. Remember Antonio McDyess was a superstar on the verge with the Knicks before he got hurt. Now it's more about shooting, which was Larry Bird's strong suit. Passing, which was Larry Bird's strong suit. Offense, which was Larry Bird's strong suit. Defense is not as important. Larry Bird was not a terrible defender. I mean, yeah, when you talk about the 90s version with the bad back, yeah, he was a bad defender, but the first 5-6 years of his career, Bird wasn't a bad defender. Clutch, Bird. So what's making people think that Bird would struggle? And another thing, we got to also look at the fact that there's a dynamic here. We're always talking about how the Detroit Pistons used to own the Bulls until the Bulls psychologically and to an extent physically got to the point where they could beat the Pistons, which is around 1990-91, right? They almost beat them in 90. Had Michael got any help in Game 7. But before that dynamic, the Celtics used to own the Pistons. So all you really got to do, even though Dennis Rodman did bring up race last time in '87, a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Pistons couldn't get past the Celtics for years. They owned the Pistons until '88. And the Pistons could have beaten the Celtics in '87, but Isaiah Thomas fucked up. So all you got to really do is Isaiah, when he be lashing out at Mike, it's because, or when people keep calling Mike the GOAT, it's because in his mind, like, wait a minute, we used to beat these motherfuckers. We don't see them as GOATs. We used to beat them all the time. So, with Dennis Rodman, even though he's gone on to win championships with the Pistons and with the Bulls, in his mind with Larry Bird, he's thinking like a Piston. And he's thinking, we should have won 3 championships. We fucked up in '87, right? We should have 3. And Boston should only have 2. That's how they thinking. He's thinking like a Piston whenever he's talking about Larry Bird. So he thinks Bird is overrated, because their count should be 3-2. And if it was 3-2, maybe the Detroit Pistons will get more credit than what they ultimately got. And you could argue maybe they should get more credit, because Magic and Isaiah did something that Larry never could. And that was go back-to-back in the finals as far as champions. They went back-to-back to go into the finals. Matter of fact, I believe they went to 4 finals in a row? No. Yeah. They went to 4 finals in a row, right? 84, 85, 86, and 87. But they never won back-to-back championships. So that's how I look at it, man. I look at it that Dennis is just tripping. On this situation, he's tripping like a motherfucker. In '87, that was frustration dealing with the media. And the Pistons never getting really any credit. But anyway, that's my take on it, man. Tell me what you guys think.